Hello, everybody! It's your Wonderful Wind Mage, your cruise ship servant, Chartreuse Proxy, everyone always at your service now. This micropatch released when I was midday when I was at work, so October 7th, but this is released on October 8th. Welcome to our first micropatch of Season 4, just about, everybody. Let's go over it as usual and get my own impressions, biased and unbiased as much as I can make it. So let's go through it. Blind reactions as always. Bonjour, Strikers, we're serving you up the fattest micropatch of the day today. Low carbon features things like buffs and nerfs, blah blah blah. Strikers, Asher. Asher is not only the queen of a lot of your hearts, she's also been the queen of the field. We're toning her down as both goalie and forward to keep her in line. Don't worry though, she's still plenty toned. Base stats decreased by 5 on power, increased 1 cooldown on breakthrough, and 0.5 on barrier beam. Not the biggest touches, but it is a small hit to her. Quite frankly, I feel like Asher has been performing pretty well with the reintroduction of Timeless Trader, for instance, considering how she is actually pretty flexible enough, both as a striker, as a forward striker and a goalie, thanks to things like size scaling still being a thing. So if she's goalie, and with maps that can be pretty polarizing to get the one barrier against, like Oni Village, for instance, or Taito Temple, to where you just have to defend one corner, meaning you can easily stuff so much hard forces with both your barrier beam or just your ultimate, thanks to having Might of the Colossus, Powerhouse Fulgence, Big Fish, and both different right now. That is 4 different ways to gain size, and that absolutely makes it a travesty to have to deal with her as the goalie end. And then also on the forward end as well too, she's able to bully just enough as well and provide a little bit more utility than Juliet when it comes to at certain points. But while Juliet has immediate stopping power, of course, both of them have dash punches to an extent. Juliet can hold the core with Flame Fury, of course, but Asher benefited a lot more with Timeless Trader coming back, because you have Timeless, you have Cast Halas to an extent, also giving her a secondary as well, of course alongside Monumentalist and Siege Machine. Timeless really just allowed her to sneak well back into the meta a good little bit with just how long Barrier Beam can be, not Barrier Beam, how long Shield Wall can be. So it's not the biggest touches, but I do see the methodology with this. I think this is fine enough, but I have seen an uptick in her pits, so I would assume that Odie also noticed a bigger surge recently. Drek. It's getting close to winter, so Drek needs to warm up a bit. He's a cold-blooded wizard. Kill him. Molten Bolt. 2 more power, 1% more scaling, and basically 30 more damage on your full duration burn. Not the biggest touch ever, but I feel like Drek has fallen out of favor considering how with Timeless Trader in, we've had a lot more people, we've had a lot more strikers coming back out of the World War. Creation strikers, of course, have benefited, but it's not overwhelming, which is good. It's just good variety, but Drek, just because of that, you know, with creations coming back in a little bit more in full force, that means some characters who are just a little bit more flexible on that end have been falling a little bit out. But 30 power isn't the biggest thing, so yeah, small bite-sized buff, nice enough, and to an extent. Estelle, her speed was tuned down last patch. She went a little weaker than we liked, so we tuned up her power a bit elsewhere. Okay, hold on. Let me go over to my Omega Strikers tab, because what was the last update on her? It said the last patch she got rotated out, right? It said her speed got toned down, but it wasn't showing. Unless I just passed by it. Am I being stupid? I might be being stupid. No, it's in alphabetical order. So, 5 move speed down at most. 2 patches ago. So it's not the biggest thing ever, but let me go back to this. So we've tuned up her power a bit elsewhere. Crystal Thorns, 10 more power, 5% more scaling, not bad, 10% power, 20% more. So not the biggest change ever, but this can help in contested situations. Piercing Shot having 5% more power. Yeah, these are just small micro adjustments. Nothing too earth-shattering, so I really can't say a comment on this too much. I feel like this still has been fine enough once again too, but with creations, once again, being full force with Timeless Trader coming in, that does mean that there is a little bit more onus when it comes to longer lasting creations, a Tofu Fortress, an Anomaly, rather than midfield presence of being able to steal priority with one hit from a Piercing Shot or a Locking Load. So I can see why they might have been suffering a little bit more. I don't necessarily think it really would have even constituted changes, but hey, little buffs or so, I'm not gonna complain about it. Little buffs, nerfs, it spices things up a bit. Octavia, last patch hit her a bit harder than we intended, so it's putting the difference in giving her a little bit of stature and good measure. In October without an Octavia buff. Octavia Mega Strikers October. Base stats. 75% more stature growth. Okay, it was always and still is bully Octavia if you can to shut her out, but that is absolutely wild. To basically almost double her stature growth throughout the game. Hello? That's Octavia stats. I've always overestimated and been wrong on every time Octavia stats have been around. I think this is going to bring her more in line, and considering how we have all 4 extension traits right now, Aerial, Super Surge, Explosive Entrance, and Chrono Boost, and not just your pick of the order between Aerial's Chrono and then either or Super Surge or Explosive Entrance. The fact that we have 4 extension traits, and also Cast Last also helps Octavia too, but the main 4 extension traits. That's spicy, honestly, to give her that much more survivability. Flow state also just getting better with the base speed too. Okay, so better initial base and then less speed for second. Honestly, I think that is still very much a win, because Octavia, she sometimes needs to enable flow state early just to speed up and beat somebody to the core. The stacking really, you know, if she gets stats, she gets stats. At that point, then it's just out of the way. She just needs to be able to get her first touch. So Octavia's stats are high, in my opinion. Are they, like, absolutely S tier, A tier? I don't think so, but she's not gonna be, you know, of course, like, niche picked as much compared to other speed strikers. I feel like Kai Era versus Octavia in the speed striker category. I think this very much so does pump her up to be not as bold around as much, but I'll see. I don't know if where Hidden Awakening's rotated. Rasmus. Rebuff Rasmus recently. Now it's time for the pendulum swing the other way. 1 second the pendulum swing, 5 less power, 10 less core knockback. Small things, but one second of cooldown still can be instrumental. Rasmus, once again, as me being one of the mains on his end especially, we still have all the size traits in the world. He very much so does still get to do a lot of ridiculous things, and Pendulum Swing being the best scaling off of size, in my opinion, for his kit, compared to Whiplash, of course. Yeah, no, this is fine. It's not the biggest nerf, but I understand it considering the state of Awakenings. Rune. Shadow Swap, 1 more second. Yeah, that's fine. He has creations. Like I said, my whole time was Trader Chase, so I can see 1 second. I don't necessarily know if it's the biggest thing, but it is still his weakest part of his kit, so yeah. Vice has been going through a bit of a rough patch. We're going to try to smooth out that roughness with the Kind buff. You're welcome, Vice. 5 more speed. 5 more power. 10% more not bad. So once again, tunes in the 5 to 10 range. I do think the speed is actually the most important thing out of it here, because I just compared on how Estelle is from 450 to 445 speed base 2 patches ago. Now Vice outspeeds her by 10, and considering how, let's say if you're playing both of them in the midfield line, since Vice can just go ahead commit up whenever she wants, same with Estelle with a Thunderstruts / Rose Warp, that means that Vice can absolutely terrorize a little bit more from the midfield line and continue running on that end. So I haven't seen Vice as much recently, nor have I ever really had the impetus to want to play her as much, even though Demon Dice is on the menu, considering how Atlas gets to exist to a greater degree, and even with survival traits on the table, the main stature traits off the table, because we've only had Big Fish, Reverb, and then you have your sub-traits of Stature, Swagger, and Unstoppable, I haven't felt as much need to play her when I can get immediate core impact otherwise, so I think this is fine. Zentar, like a fine buff to her. It gives her a little bit more of an identity, with being able to get more into position ready for her Thunderstruck commitments. Zen. The gap between Zen's highs and lows are a bit wider than we like. Giving him some extra damage on a perfect slice and dice to make him a little less feast or famine. Also, whoa, VTube Studio Chan, why are you flying around at the bottom here? Why are you flying here at the bottom? Oh, either way. Slice and dice. Primary. Sour Start and not bad damage multiplier. 33 to 45%, so 20 more power. So basically just making it that it... I just hate Zentaro players in general, and also my VTube Studio is lagging, so that's probably why it was acting up. So I guess I will transition to my... to my fruity tech for the meantime, then. Sorry about this, y'all. This is a little awkward, I'm not going to lie. But going on from this, Zen I have not seen as much in a capacity at all recently. Good for me, but overall, it does bring to terms of like, it's either I feel like I'm getting dumpstered by Zen, or the Zen's never coming online. So as much as I do hate him, I think this is fine enough considering how it's not the biggest keynote of his toolkit to get perfect slice and dices, but it is a good mark with how well Zens are lining it up for their core or not. Not counting how well they can just hold the core with it, of course, but at least for if you're playing him on the more bruisery side and trying to put in more damage, then yes, I do think this is something fine enough to tune on one extent. Maps and modes, rotated in Night Market and Athens City, rotated out Clarion Core and Oni Village. Oni Village is out! Okay, this is a W patch. Alright, patch it up, everybody. I love this patch. Night Market being back in is wonderful. Default, de facto, I think that is, without a doubt, just the best map in the game. Enables a whole variety of playstyles, lots of opportunities for starting, lots of opportunities for creations to take over, many ways to play weird, cool angles, or to outmind game your own opponents with just the inbuilt mechanic of the speed boost in the middle. Athens City coming in, it's a classic as always. It's our only one barrier map, considering how Inky's is still out of rotation at the moment too. But this makes my Octavia stats keep going up potentially, and Orb stats might be up too. Clarion Core, as much as I do love the map to an extent, it has been in rotation for I think some of the longest in like the current pool, so I do understand it coming out. And Oni Village, thank gods you're out. I hate you, you stupid map. You absolute stupid map. You're out of here, that's all I can care about. Awakenings, rotated out. Reverb. Glass Cannon, Might, Ponder. Really? We got Athens City, and we didn't even get Orbit Zodia back again? They just said, screw it, rotate you out? Are you serious right now? That is so stupid, and VTube Studio's working again. They introduced Athens City back, and instead of us getting Orb Replicator, they just rotate the Orb... Oni really hates the orb traits. I am absolutely a stan for the orb traits, even though I barely fit them as much compared to when they first came out. Granted, because they were fine-tuned and balanced a lot more, because they were absolutely polarizing when they first came out. But we're never gonna get Orbit Zodia ever again. Let's go over everything else. Glass Cannon, that's always been a very contentious trait and a ticking time bomb of a win condition, as I described, kind of like Catalyst. So I don't mind it coming out. It's always been there, so, but we'll see what comes in, because I haven't read it further. Reverb coming out, though, does make me worry, though, considering how Big Fish was the only statter trait, pure statter gain trait, once again, though. Because Statter City is still out. Mount of the Cross is coming out, though. I think that's totally fine, considering how, once again, we had Might, we had Big Fish, we had both different. I also forgot Rampage when I was making the argument for Asher. And then even if you have Powerhouse Potions, that is your own sized Zodia at that point, then. So one of the size traits going out to basically make it 3 size traits in rotation, not counting Goalie Gear, instead of 4, that is totally fine in my opinion. Rotated in. Oh, we get Sparts back. No Spark of Leadership, but Sparts are back, and we got Knife's Edge too. Ooh. Potentially spicy. Knife's Edge for Glass Cannon, basically. I greed too much with Knife's Edge, but it does have a time and place whenever it is on the Awakening draft or so it comes down to that. I do think it's a much more balanced Awakening in a vacuum compared to Glass Cannon, considering how Glass Cannon just literally is, sometimes you don't have the cooldowns to hit the person with Glass Cannon, kind of like Momentum Boots. It's just literally a what can I do situation. I lost by interacting with everybody else but this one person. Whereas Knife's Edge requires the person who has it to actively engage in their win condition, and also it puts them at risk since they have to play on the corners at all times. That is very fair enough, though I need to test if we still also have the interaction with Aimee's app, if it also triggers it on the whole still. Sparks coming back, okay, so Reverb out, Spark of Strength coming in as just its own big bolster to your stature. What is it? It's, if I remember correctly, it was like what? 250 stature base or 350 stature place plus 200 for every other spark that you have. So I think like 450 or 550 stature on its own. I might be over-tuning. It's around like the 300 to 500 range base, but the fact is that is already survivable on its own, and it's more raw stature versus stature and cooldown with Reverb. Reverb didn't make too much more sense unless you had Bidfish with it, because you just got Stagger and CDR by itself, so unless... because it made more sense with Stagger City, since you get the stacking benefits from that all kind of like Sparks. Now Spark of Strength, meaning that you can scale with the other stuff, gives it a lot more purpose, rather than just the CDR on Reverb just being, oh, you just get 24% cooldown reduction if you have nothing else. If you have Bidfish, it goes up to like, what, 36%? Cooldown reduction, and then congrats, you've maxed out on this build. It's a 2 Awakening build. Aerials. If you're a projectile range hating Juno main, I apologize. Please direct your hate comments to me. Who am I? Good question. Aesop. Projectile range increased 30 to 40%. I don't think Aerials necessarily needed it, but considering how we still had once again big 4 traits, Aerials, Chrono Boost, Super Surge, Explosive, I think we would have just been better with rotating one of those out. I don't necessarily see the reason for it, considering how we still have Missile Propulsion, Deadeye is still in here, Siege Machine is still in here. I don't see why Aerials had to be buffed. And you know, it is just a joking article about it from Aesop and the dev team, but this is just a question mark change to me. Like, was it performing that badly? I don't think so. 30% is still a marginal increase, and it does throw people off at times. Big Fist, size and stature gain going down. Understandable, we already got a stagger trait rotated out, and Big Fist getting hit a little bit more, considering how it provided just, in my opinion, just the best base stats of both stagger, of all the size, since you got it immediately, and you got stagger gain. One of the only 2 stagger gains still in the game right now, too. Then, yes, I am still for this, because size, once again, is a very is probably the most polarizing trait, right? And that's just speed for how you can win the game, so fine enough. Catalyst. Energy Awakenings go together like chocolate and peanut butter. Sorry if you're allergic to peanuts though, my heart goes out to you. Energy gained on light and normal hits taken, reduced. As much as I love Catalyst, this trait is still the most busted thing in the game. I am all for the nerfs once again. It does hurt, but this is the biggest ticking time bomb win condition. Since if you don't interact with the person, they get the core. If you do interact with them, they get energy. And unless your team is good at linking up 1-2s, or you can single-handedly burst somebody down, if they're getting energy, they can evade your hits right after taking 1 or 2 bad ones, because they just already got all of that from just taking hits. Otherwise, they are just always burst conditioning at all times. It feels like such a drowning trait to go against, no matter if you're winning or losing at times. So the fact that it's getting knocked down by overall basically 1.2 energy at all times, 0.3 energy on light, 0.9 on normal hits. That is very, very fun to me. Fight or Flight. After the switch kits nerf, Fight or Flight was once again better switch kits. Speed duration decreased. Yeah, no, that just keeps it in line. Understandable. I didn't notice it at first until I got pointed out on stream one day, but yes, that is understandable. 1-2 Punch. Nerfed. Decreases across the board. 2%. 2.5 to 2 seconds afterwards. I was going to mention this on the nerf section. What was I not happy about to see? But I was going to mention it more in my overall wrap up. Juno, I feel like at the ELOs that I'd been playing and recording at ever since I started playing Season 4, which has only been Platinum up to where I am mid to high Diamond range at the moment. I feel like I've seen her so much recently just because Timeless Trader did come in. It does help her out to see as a creation striker, but when you have aerials, when you have Deadeye, when you have 1-2 Punch, when you have Hot Shot, plus the 3 creation traits, Siege Machine, Monumentals, Timeless Trader, she is so flexible. She has so many choices of best in slots that even if you pick one Awakening, she probably has another one to choose from afterwards too, and she just gets to deal so much residual damage over time, or just send the core wildly flying just with power. So the aerials comment did kind of throw me off and really? That's kind of surprising to an extent. 1-2 Punch does go down to an extent though, which I do think is pretty big, in my opinion, because that is one trait that is very much so, I wouldn't say slept on, but you see Juno taking it, it's just, crap, this is gonna suck, because she really just needs to strike once, and then a Blobo hits, and she gets 1-2 Punch, and it absolutely just starts already going, not counting what other increases that she has out of it. Egoist. Energy Awakens go together with chocolate and peanut butter already. Same thing again. evade, energy gain down, burst energy gain down once again, totally fine. Like, same methodology as Catalyst. You are always just working at an inherent gameplay advantage with Egoist and Catalyst for people interacting, not interacting with you one way or another, and because of that, you get punished for just playing the game. And it's different from Gloss Cannon, to where that's from my Gloss Cannon, which I used already terminology as the other ticking condition, to where you have to deal with this person. Whereas Catalyst and Egoist, they just play the game, but better than you. It's not the difference of, it's like Kai Octavia with speed, to where they just get to outstrike you from their strikers. This is just really, the Awakening's taken, and you have to deal with this every minute or two. And I wouldn't say it necessarily felt bad, since of course it's a burst. You can always counter a burst, you can always time a burst, you can always put them in a bad situation to burst. But the fact is, this is a universal mechanic that any striker can take at any time, and then you have to deal with it at all times. The fact that you don't have to deal with it every minute, maybe every 2 minutes or so, it's not inherently bad, but it brings them much more balanced in line. It's not that they're overpowering. Well, Egoist not as much, I don't feel, but Catalyst, it was bad. And of course, when these two were together, plus like your Replicator, for instance, then, or a team player, when it was still in the midst too, those energy gaining traits, it really started to hurt. Or like with Quick Strike, for instance, too. Hotshot, cooldown reduction, increased. Just talked about the Juno principle with that too. I don't necessarily think Hotshot necessarily needed it to, but but what other traits is it competing with for core power? It's competing with 1-2 punch. It's competing with teams, with a team player to an extent for core power. For cooldown reduction, there's nothing that gives cooldown reduction otherwise besides perfect form. So what's really performing that bad with perfect form? I wouldn't necessarily have to say so, but I don't see why Hotshot had to necessarily be touched. Granted, once again, there's no secondary developer note talking about like if it was performing that bad or so, but it's minor tweaks, so maybe they're just trying things out, trying to, see what sits in a new meta, because I'm basing it off of reactions more than proactive. Because, I'll throw out a good example right now, League of Legends World Championship, LoL's Worlds right now is going on, and they always introduce a patch, the Worlds patch, to bring certain characters in that are always excitable at a top level. Look at Azir always existing. Well, we haven't seen Azir much in 2024. This is dating me right now. But in the past, we've seen Azir a good amount. Other characters like Akali and etc, 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 that somehow made their way up to Worlds every time, because that's what the dev team balances around, and things will be exciting for, an international stage and meta and with the best players. I don't know the competitive scene of Mega Strikers that much besides the ranked ladder, so I don't know if this is something more polarizing with the community tournaments or so, but that's just something else to consider before you leave your comments down below as well, of course. So I don't see the reason behind this, kind of like my comments with the aerials, whether it be it's underperforming, or if Odie just thinks, hey, I want to push this trait more, make it a little bit more known to the player base that this is pretty good. So, there's that. But that's just something to consider. Siphoning Wand. Siphoning was more bottom feeder wand because it sucked. We're making it a little bit better now so people can win when they pick it. Burns, it's basically reverting things almost just about. Take from their last nerfs. I wouldn't necessarily say Siphoning Wand sucked, but we have had a good amount of residual high on it, considering how Stinger was rotated out back in Season 4 patch, I think, if I remember correctly, and because of that, people weren't seeing Siphoning Wand Stinger as much, nor are some poke characters like Vice or Zen as into the meta as much. We have a lot of raw power, like in rotated, like in Prize Fighter, like in Deadeye, like in Missile Propulsion, that allows people to immediately burst or so, but it's not like there's a lot of people who are looking to cleave, unless it's pure win condition. Like, if you're cleaving with the Julia Dash Punch hitting the core and an enemy, you're probably already getting the barrier slots, you're already getting the goal, so why do you need to attrition somebody down at that point then? Unless, so, yeah, Siphoning Wand I feel like has been performing worse, considering how, if you're going for kill conditions, you have Pummelers, if you need Survive, you have Vicious, and then, otherwise, Slick and Magnetize are in a pretty good state otherwise. I wouldn't feel like Brawling's as useful, considering how Speed is still a premium, or you have another better primary win condition. So, I think it's fine to touch it this way, and then we'll see, because remember, if you up-tune it a little bit too much, then that's when kill meta starts coming around, and as much as Brawling / KOs have been around, back in beta / Season 1 days, when kill conditions were so absolutely fast, and it was quite legitimately somebody gets shut out, like frame 1, 10 seconds into a round, not counting freak accident deaths, because brawling is king, it starts to feel drowning and just bad in general if you're on the receiving end and you don't get to play the game. So, small tits, we'll see how it goes, but I think this is a good change. Timeless Creator, duration decreased by 5%, size increase of creations decreased by 5%. Fine enough, same reasoning as I said before. Creation traits are in. Monumentals and Timeless Creator used to be the only ones there. Then we got Seeds Machine, and technically Cast Last 2 also gives you creator size. So we have 4 creation traits, so a little bit of a tick to what I feel is probably the best one in general is fine enough. And that's it, just 10 creator codes. Okay, overall thoughts on the notes from myself here. I think these are fine. I think it's possibly good. It's small changes to the structures themselves, so not the biggest thing overall. I love the map changes, no doubt at all. When it comes to Awakenings though, Sparks coming back is exciting. We'll have to see if people learn to counterdraft 4 seasons into the game now. I'm sad about the orb traits, but it is fine to get Might of the Colossus out, because instead of 4 size traits, we're down to 3. Wish they rotated out a creation trait though. Or they rotated out one of the big 3, I say now big 4, but big 4, since Super Surge came back in, and now we have that, like I said, with Aerials, with Chrono, with Explosive all together. That way, you have a viable build path that's relatively even throughout all the lines. Because we have 4 creations, 4 Sparks, 4, what's his face? Ah, shoot, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, 4 creations, 4 Sparks. We have only 3 size traits at the moment. I guess 3, 4, that really altogether isn't the worst ever. But I'm just so used to only having 3 because back then. Because we didn't have Seeds Machine back then, we didn't have Explosive Vengeance back then. I guess Sparks were the only 4. Either way, 3 to 4 seems like to be the balancing line for when it comes to for scaling Awakenings, or how things want to be too often touch, to a relative degree, and they did hit one of them with Timeless Creator though. I don't think it's really making any big movers or shakers in terms of overall playtime, besides maybe Vice and Octavia, the Oni sisters really, Octavia more so, but from more niche to, I think, comparable pitch for confidence against Kai and Era in the Speed Striker category. But, yeah, this is just, like I said, this is a micro-patch. I think it's positive for the game, with how, of course, they're still keeping it up. The changes aren't anything really much home to write about, but I do think that with the new maps coming in and the new Awakenings, it's going to very much so be more dictated on the draft, more than just the characters, more than anything, especially with Sparks coming in, and with Sparks coming in to the game, and I feel, once again, size being hit, I think that is still, once again, the most, first or second most polarizing trait next to speed that somebody can have, so it brings it more in line to be a healthier game, just on baseline stats, alongside a higher emphasis on draft, with Sparks being a bigger win condition, 4 Sparks to get versus 2 Orbs to get, so that's 2 stagger traits to get with Big Fish Reverb. So I think it's fine, but otherwise, this is just, just thumbs up patch, nothing more to say about it. So, please do tell me what you think about it in the comments below, if you think there's anything more that's going to get you to try another character or so, or if you want to also give Oni Village Slander and say how much you hate the map alongside with me, do leave it below. At least for now though, this will be the daily upload, and it's been your Wonderful Wind Mage, your Cruz Ship servant, Chartreuse Proxy, everyone always at your service now, and I'll see you all whenever I stream, or as always, 12 noon every single day for a new Omega Strikers upload. Thank you all for coming along.